So you ask about Jacob Knight. Jacob Knight, back in the 1980s, was a celebrated artist in central New England. Jacob was very famous for painting these illustrations for Esquire magazine, Playboy magazine, Red Book magazine, as well as regional, smaller yearly reports for corporations. There was a Jacob Knight painting on the cover. I was intrigued by this and fascinated by the description of this giant of a person that had a gold tooth, big brawny guy with 30 acres of land and 30 acres of stuff that he collected over the decades. And I wanted to meet him, and come to find out he wanted to meet me, the guy who did Bell Pond. And upon our meet, we became instant friends. So that's the introduction to Jake right there. And so again, how did this come to be that we actually make a project out of meeting this famous person, Jacob Knight? So when I arrived at Jake's house, I was actually in the midst of also shooting the mall series. And I found the mall series very intense and very depressing. And by visiting Jake, I felt like I was on another planet, another world. I felt another century, literally. It was like my Henry David Thoreau at Walden Pond. And I found solace there hanging out with him. He liked me and I liked him. He had 30 acres of junk around him, and he would go literally to the dump every other day. He had the key to the town dump of the Brookfields. And he would find that visiting one day a box of discards from somebody who passed away at a nursing home. And then he'd bring this box back and he would say, DiRado, I just have this amazing box here from some person who just passed away. Let's find out what's in it, like a time capsule. And we would open it up and find these old photos, and we would live parts of this person's life. And I would hold these objects and I would ask them to tell me stories. And so what I decided early on was to set up in his barn a studio, a place that I could then set these things up, collect them, and put them in kind of a category or categorical nature of narratives, sentences to put together to create paragraphs, paragraphs to create stories. And so over a period of a couple of days, I would find some old doll or an old discarded utensil from the kitchen, a sieve, something like that. Pieces of glass they'd use as shards to reflect light around the room, those old photos, and everything in between, and slowly build these things up on this table so that I could bring my big box camera in and then create a perimeter, basically a frame, so that I could then have the narrative come together and then make finally one single photo that sometimes the lens would open on the camera for an hour and then close and collect all of those beautiful things in great detail.